Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Complete Advisor Podcast. I am so happy that you are here today. I want to read to you a statistic. 88% of clients consider their financial professional's frequency and style of communication when deciding whether to retain your services. On today's episode, we've got Jeannie Underwood. She is an expert when it comes to message mapping. She's with an advanced sales department from one of our carrier partners. This is an episode you do not want to miss. Let's jump right in.
So, message mapping was born out of a concept, not really a concept that I created, but I had in my previous firms and experience had participated in a number of word studies, language studies, words and language for financial professionals to help them connect with potentially the person sitting across the desk from them. And so for years with this prior firm, we had done focus groups, we crisscrossing the country, doing focus groups, looking for words that work for financial professionals. We used a resource. His name was Frank Luntz and Michael Maslansky. If you remember, Frank Luntz, I didn't see him a lot this last election season, but in previous election season, he's the word specialist. He's the one doing the polling and, the focus groups, looking for words that work for politicians to help them get more votes. So back in 2008, we saw this PBS special on him, went to him and said, well, you think you have a word problem in the political arena. We think we might have a word problem in the financial industry. And he said, we do, right? And it validated as I get to that here in a minute. And he said, yeah, no one's ever come to me from your industry. Let's see what you have. And, after a little bit of time, he came and I think I recall it going like this. He walked in the room and slammed the files on the table and was like, you all have a serious word problem in your industry, and we will work with you. So it was Frank Luntz and Michael Maslansky. Michael Maslansky took the lead on that. And really, they helped us find and put together all these programs based on words that work. So, let's fast forward to, I believe it was during COVID, 2020, 2021, where I said, words and language are probably even more important now that we're all stuck at home, and the only thing that people have access to are our words and our communication.
Yep.
And so we put our resources behind a project, and we reached out to, at the time, a company that Frank Luntz owned called Storyline Strategies, and put this idea in front of them. And they said, yeah, we think we can help you achieve what you're looking for. And really, we started with looking for we wanted to find more words that work. But after doing the research, we zoomed into the living rooms of people across the country wanting to know, literally, what do you want from a financial advisor? What sort of relationship do you want with them? What would keep you in a relationship with them?
That would totally be doing it at that time. There's I think it's like Malcolm Gladwell or somebody was saying that finding situations where there's a natural experiment, like it just so happens to set itself up, and having people, unfortunately, COVID was terrible and it was the craziest time maybe in our recorded history for us, but what an opportunity of access to people focusing on words.
They were, and everyone was so appreciative and wanted to share. It's like, everyone was just like...
Had nothing to do.
Yeah, busting at the seams to do something different besides just sitting in their living room and watching TV. So we gathered a lot of great information, but what we gathered was, it wasn't just about words that work or words to use versus words to lose. We got so much more information that we were able to create more of a communication toolkit, a communication package for financial professionals to really help them connect more with clients and put them in a situation to drive more revenue in their practice.
I have to say, it was a little humbling. I said it between takes in there, but I came out of college and I've been in this industry my entire life, and I've been on both sides of the fence. I have two brothers, I told you, are advisors, and I worked with one of them, and my dad was an insurance agent. And he was amazing, but he was one of those guys that he worked hard, and had he had more polish, he would have, had he had something like this.
Yeah.
And he was a student of the game, so he would have just lapped this up. But I found it so interesting and humbling when we were doing some of those, like the word quizzes, putting me on the spot, and I'm like getting them wrong, because I hear the language that the industry has put out for a long time. And just those subtle switches. So that on that one session, I'm teasing everyone out there. I'm teasing you. You've got to see this. Even the one there on some of the language describing product.
Yes.
And just the difference of one word where one said no and the other said zero. And it's like, I want that.
Yes.
That resonates.
Yes.
Or the one I don't remember me saying this, but the one where it had, this one said and, but this one said plus. And it's like, oh.
The plus was
totally
much more positive.
So so one of the questions I have is you all put an amazing amount of work into this because everything you've done is beautiful. I have I'm going to do a shameless. I don't do this normally. Like this, I have it. I printed it out because I want to see it.
Yes, I love it.
The content and the material is like top notch. So when you're at a carrier, Global Atlantic, which is an awesome company, is it hard? Is it a challenge? Because I know you present this too. Like you're a great speaker as well. I'm gushing about you because we just had a great time in there. But do you get resistance from advisors that are like, hey, I'm all right, I'm pretty good at this. And you're like, no, just you could be better.
No, actually, we don't.
Oh, I love it. Okay, awesome.
Because I think especially the top producers, you can kind of segment out advisors, producers, however you term them. You're the top of the top, got to the top of the top by being students of the business. Yeah. And really by adopting and adapting. And that's why they are who they are and where they are, because they appreciate things that are going to make them better no matter who it is. Mm-hmm. What I love about what we do at Global Atlantic is that all of our programs have a very specific formula, which I think drives a lot of the success. We always provide the what and the why, or the why and the what, depending on what is the best order. And then we always provide the how, and that's the tools to make it happen. So we see a lot of presentations where some really awesome content, right? Like the what and the why, and then they leave people hanging. Like, okay, now you guys go figure it out. So our goal is always to make sure that we accomplish that formula and we complete that formula. But the how, we also have a little mini formula built within that it can't be too complicated. We never want anyone leaving our session where they feel overwhelmed. Like, okay, this is a great concept, but how in the world am I going to this seems like a lot of work. We want to provide the tools and the ideas that they can walk out of that room. The next phone call they take or the next meeting they go to, they can try one or two little of our ideas, sprinkle them in, and find success right away. And that also caters to all advisors, not just top advisors, but that's what these programs do. It's little things with big impacts.
I like so as you're saying that, I was just thinking, so in the for context, and again, watch the webinar because it is fantastic. Yes. Drop a note if you want to see it and you don't have a link. Drop a note and I'll get the link in there. But even the use of in one of the segments you talked about bringing these sales tools together. So you guys put together for everyone else. You put together this sales kit and it is all encompassing, and even the use of. So when we were talking about the use of one-pagers to reinforce, most independent financial advisors are probably maybe years away from when they started. Mm-hmm. So like I started in the industry at a small fraternal that they had some sales training. I went to a wirehouse later that they did send you to the home office and they had some very specific training, but a lot of people don't have that, or if they had it, it was years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that when you talked about, in the sales kit for everybody, in the sales kit, there are some great one-pagers to reinforce what you've been talking about. And as in the 25 feet that we walked from that studio over to here, I was just thinking that I bet the majority of people, because companies have one-pagers, but no one tells you the right time or how to use it. And now that I think about it, I would have used those all wrong. And the way that you talked about using it and reinforcing, do you get out on the road and do that? Like what we were talking about, do you get that into the weeds with people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What happens a lot of times, because our content is all research backed, right? It's all, and we spend a lot of time on it. I always tell the team, we're not speakers, we're experts that speak. And
Nice.
so,
I like
yes.
that.
And so we study this stuff. I mean, it's hours and hours and hours, thousands and thousands of pages of research we sift through to make sure that we're a true expert. So a lot of times when we go out and we present this concept on a big stage or a breakout, we have a line of financial professionals afterwards saying, hey, what about this? Or they have a question, or they want to tell me their story that's made them successful, which I love because I'm a collection of advisors and their ideas out there. And so when we do that, we have a lot of people that say, can we set up time and can you consult with me or coach me through some of this? And that's like how it organically happens is a lot of times like advisors are so interested in it and then they want us to help them implement it. And so when those situations happen, then that's exactly we come out or we do Zooms or whatever is the most effective or efficient way of doing it. And we walk them through everything. And so they get the broad toolkit in the session, and then we break it down more for them. And then in some cases provide a little bit more kind of that personalization of their practice and who that client is or who that intended or who they're meeting with, maybe prospect-wise, that they want to be clients. So we take all these tools and we use them as consulting tools as well.
I think, so I'm curious in a second, I'm going to ask you about the study itself. But, one of the things that really did resonate when we were talking in there and you showed those conversation questions, and I think it's in map A, the 4.
Yes.
There are these great questions, and what I was thinking about, we were talking about this was, so getting the other person, because usually we're dealing with couples typically, right? And getting that other person engaged, because typically there's one person that takes the lead, one that doesn't. And then when that person that takes the lead passes, you don't know anything about that other person. If you don't get them engaged, then that money's going to be gone.
Yeah, you do. And what's interesting is like what we found is the generations are different. So like right now, the majority of the assets in this country are with the baby boomers. That makes the most sense,
Makes the most sense.
There's a lot of them. They're the biggest, and they're the oldest at this point. So they've had time to accumulate, and they've had inheritances and so on and so forth. You look at that generation, and how that generation played out is typically the male counterpart has been responsible for the family's long-term financial dealings in business. And then the female counterpart has typically been the I take care of like kind of the day-to-day finances. And they really separate them. Like typically you did not see the male counterpart getting involved in like, paying for Johnny's piano lessons and like, or going grocery shopping and all that. And then vice versa, the female counterpart never got involved with long-term, so hence did not get involved with that relationship typically.
That's a good point.
So what we find is that still this happens today. It is typically the male that's going to visit with the advisor when that time comes, either through a review or other intended meetings, for a purpose, relevant meetings. So there's no relationship and no one's forcing it. He's not saying, hey, you really need to come with me to this meeting, the advisor, because that's been how the relationship, that's just how it's formed. And he's not really, or she is not saying like, hey, I really need Joni to come to the office with you. So we're trying to help advisors realize that that's really, really important. So here's what we also found in research is that she thinks if she comes, that's overwhelming because she's never been a part of it. She doesn't know anything about typically, and I won't put everyone in that category, but it's just never been in her arena, right? So she goes and she's like, okay, this can be overwhelming. I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't want to ask a question.
I don't even really want to know because this hasn't been my responsibility. So she doesn't even realize that she's not really even going to be asked anything or she doesn't have any responsibilities in that particular meeting. It's never really talked to her, really shared with her in that way. And so we've come up with a way for financial professionals to encourage, because those are at-risk assets. Remember?
1,000%. Yes.
At risk.
Yes,
Remember?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so what's the average age of a female widow?
59 and a half.
Right.
Or was it
59
0.4?
There you go.
There you go. I was
59.4 years. You're very close. 59.4 years, so at risk. So what we've been encouraging to not offset the equilibrium between like what she feels her role is and his role is to say, to give her a reason to come in, saying like, look, when you come in, we don't need you to make any decisions. We don't want to overwhelm you, but we do feel it's very important for you to know and understand the decisions that we make today with your husband. We're going to assume it's the husband because that's typically how it played out in the baby. We need you to know the decisions we make today, that your husband and I make today. We need you to know how this is going to affect you and the outcome, and make sure that you're prepared in any situation.
Have you built that out?
No.
That's big.
That is big.
Because that would be so delicate.
It is. That's all it is. That's all it is. So as a financial professional, if you're in this situation and there is a trend in your practice where it's just the male that comes in, and to break kind of that pattern and going forward, I think it's going to be an essential conversation to talk to both of them and say, hey, Joni, like, I know you typically don't come in.
That's big.
You don't make the decisions, and we don't want you to, unless you want to. Yeah. We don't want to upset the equilibrium. But we do feel it's very important for you to come in at least once a year so you know the decisions that we're making, how it's going to potentially affect you long term.
I guarantee that everybody that's listening to this has multiple households where only one spouse comes in. And if you think that you're going to maintain that client, that household, if that person when they pass away, there's no way. Yeah. So getting that, I don't even know, that would be a great study of how do you get that other person engaged. Yeah. And then how do you,
I think that's a start. That's a start. We have a couple other ideas too, to engage her. And again, we don't assume it's her, but it's that generation. So if he still is continuing to come in and she is not, that if you give out paper copies of anything you're talking about, you need to make 2 folders. Make 2 copies. You need to have one for him. I needed to have one for her with a handwritten note to her. Hey, Joni, sorry we missed you. Here's what we talked about. Here's a little bit more of an outline of everything that we decided to do today. If you have any questions, please call me, or if you want to come in and talk, please call me. Almost like keep opening the door for her.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that is if you were advising somebody, would you have them give it to the person, or would you mail it so that you know that the other person gets it? So it doesn't end up on somebody's car seat.
Right? In car seat, or lost in like a car.
She doesn't need to know.
Yeah, it's fine. It's an interesting point. I never really thought about it that way. I mean, we typically don't go that far, right? We say make 2 folders, and we just can assume leave it up to them.
Let's spend some of Global's money and do some investigating.
Let's do some surveys on that. I don't know. I think it could work both ways. I think that, again, that generation is pretty responsible, and I think that it could get back to them if they have a decent relationship too. But it's a fair point.
No, that's it. The 2 folders and a handwritten note. Because if you, I can think of clients that I had where it's like there's not the relationship isn't being built because you don't have an opportunity.
Right, they never come in.
But then you think it's okay, and that's just the way they want to do it. But those assets are gonna go.
They're gonna go. And there's other ways. I mean, there's events. There's other things that you can do that cater and focus more on that spouse that isn't as an active in the relationship. You really have to spell it out. So I tell financial professionals right now, I said, you need to, it's almost like T-chart your top 10 clients. If that's too much, do your top 5 couples, your top 5 couples. Do a T-chart on them and ask, there's 5 questions. So you put the male on one side, the female on the other, and you ask 5 questions like, where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What are your top money goals? And there's 2 more I think I have them ask. And then answer the question individually for each spouse.
You answer what you know.
The advisor answer.
Yes, that's brilliant.
What they know. And if there's any holes in those T-charts, especially for the women in those couples, you have work to do.
Yep.
You have a lot of work to do. So they need to figure out how then to get to know the female counterpart in the same level that they know.
Yeah. I'm gonna look right at the camera. You should do this right now.
Yes.
Like take your top 10 households and some questions and like things that you know about, just put them down And yes, see if you can answer them from both sides.
Individually. Like, where do they work? I think another one was like, where do they work, or where was their career? Something like that.
What do they
There's
like to
5.
do? Like just
Yeah. What do they like to do outside of work, or what are their hobbies? And if there's any holes, then you have serious work to do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
maybe
that's
it's
brilliant.
like their soft experiences, right? Like I consider like a hard experience, like when they come into your office and it's like
Yeah.
hard business, you're having like more, more, maybe complicated, I mean, not even complicated, but more detailed
Yeah.
technical conversations. Build into your business plan, like if she's not going to come to the office, because she might not come to the office, even with you saying like, hey, we just want you to understand what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
What can you do in addition to that to engage her? Is it events? Is it, appreciation
Yeah.
type of things? Is it more education? We've got some ideas around that, but I think it needs to be thought about because
You could be sending what you think is a thoughtful Christmas present.
Mm-hmm.
And like that other person literally maybe hates that or has
Yeah.
zero interest, or you know what? I go to that because my
Yeah.
wife likes it.
Yeah.
Otherwise I can't stand. I go
Yeah.
because I love her, but
Yeah.
or vice versa.
Or how about as simple as this? Now, I know there's people that have backed off of this round and have said, well, that's not traditional. But like when you're addressing something, if you're sending the Christmas card or a Thanksgiving card or whatever, are you addressing her first? Like, are you saying to, Mrs. Joni and Richard Smith?
Yeah.
Or are you saying Richard and Joni? But like, when you see your name first, like I'm like, oh, this is really to me.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
just
that's a
kind of
good
like the
point.
counterpart. But it's just those little things that I think are really important. And I do think that financial professionals looking up their book, and if they are heavy baby boomers, it's time to do a serious audit. Like, are you really prepared potentially? Do you know where your biggest at-risk assets are? And do you have a plan for them?
That's a good one. Okay, speaking of audits,
Yes.
so that then takes us back to research. When you all did that, anything that surprised you? Any big surprises? I mean, you're a student of the game, so probably not. But anything stand out that you were like, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the words. So a lot of the words that we had tested at my prior firm, and they were good words, and I just wanted to validate, like, have things shifted or changed, or these words still resonate? And for the most part, they did. They did so, and then we just added words to that list. So none of the words totally surprised me. I was pretty on target with those. One thing that we did differently on this one is that we're always telling financial professionals, like, ask really good open-ended questions, because that's how you're going to get to know the person sitting across from you, and it creates likability, and people do business with people they like and trust. And no one's ever tested questions. And so I wasn't totally surprised by the questions that resonated the most, but it was really nice to see that the way that we tested them, we weren't just saying, do you like this question?
Yeah.
We judged them liking the question by how they answered the question and how long they spent answering the question.
That's smart.
So that was cool. It's like, okay, so the only way these questions made the list is if we like personally witnessed the smiles on their faces and kind of the nudging with if they had their partner there, and how much time they spent answering it.
That's smart, because you can ask, did you like this? Scale of 1 to 5, 5. But it's like you can say that, but then like there are, like you're saying, that how do they emotionally respond? How enthusiastic are they? How long? That's a great study. How fun that must have been.
It was super fun. And then, like I said in the series that we just recorded, one of the things we did, we were testing, the client resource tools.
Yes.
And we tested, we have a few client approved pieces at Global Atlantic, and we wanted to test them. I don't think they're necessarily the best pieces, but we wanted to test them just to kind of see. And I was actually pleasantly surprised that people do love marketing pieces, no matter what they are. People love tangibles.
I have to tell you. So I back in the day when I was an advisor, we'd have wholesalers come through, and they would leave a whole stack of things. And then you wouldn't want them, like, get these out of here.
Yeah.
You hang on to them, because otherwise I just recycle it. But there's the bias that we have, and when we were over there, I'm gonna try and coin a phrase.
Okay.
Oh, advisor-splaining.
Oh, that's
Instead
right.
of mansplaining,
Yes,
advisor-splaining.
that's right. I love it. Yes.
Like we think, well, that's what they want. And that's what no one wants paper. No one wants, I have had this bias myself in some different areas where it's like, no one wants that. And it's like, I don't know. I know what I don't want, but I don't know what they don't want. And one of the questions when we were talking, asking somebody about how they feel about the performance of their portfolio. At first, when we were talking, I'm like, I kind of shook it off. But the more I thought about it when we were talking off, it's like, hey, Jeannie, good news. Your portfolio returned 12% this quarter. Blah 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 blah. I'm going to keep going. Blah 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 blah. And I have no idea if that 12% made you throw up because there was ups and downs. It's brilliant, brilliant asking these questions.
Yeah, no, they're important questions, and again, they've been studied, so they're in the brochure. However, we're going to get that to everyone. But I would encourage you, however we do potentially get this information out to this viewing audience, to take a look at those questions. And I always encourage financial professionals in meetings to beforehand practice asking some of these. These questions are different, as you saw.
Yeah.
They're a little different.
They are.
And it's not.
I took a beating on some of those.
There might be a little bit out of some financial professionals' comfort zone, because they're used to maybe their company provided or their own profiler type questions that are more lean more towards kind of the financial industry. You could say so a financial professional designed this question. And
need to throw some jargon in there.
And they should be asking. These aren't meant to replace them, but these really kind of add in a lot more liveliness, I think, to the conversation. But you got to practice. If you're not used to them and it's outside your comfort zone, you got to practice it, and then you got to figure out where to insert them.
Yeah.
Because then it could come across as pretty, but practice makes perfect.
You have to practice so it sounds natural. Otherwise, it sounds like you're forcing words out of your mouth that aren't there. And it is interesting because we all have conversations, since we're on the inside now. We have conversations with other financial people on this side of the consumer fence, and so there's different words. So the one that surprised me and then probably threw me for a tailspin the entire rest of the recording was just that one question, what resonates better? The word, and there's more to this though, folks, so you have to watch the thing, but solutions or the one that had strategy. And I'm like, well, people want that's solution.
Right.
And
you're
like,
they want a solution?
Wrong.
Right. No, I mean, and that one was surprising originally when we tested it. Because that's what we do. We build solutions, and we talk about it, and we're very proud of the solutions that we build. But that one word, what those solutions do are pretty impressive to people. But the word itself to describe it does not resonate.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Because solution sounds, like I said, arrogant to people. Like, oh, you think you have a solution to a problem I don't think I necessarily have. And all of a sudden, they take 4 steps back from that conversation.
Yeah.
But the word strategy, I mean, the way it tested, they're like, I like strategy. It sounds customized. It gets me excited to come in. I want to talk about this strategy.
Yeah. It's solution solution to me sounds like you put me in a box and it's not gonna adjust. Like, okay, here's your solution. Strategy sounds like we're nimble and we're gonna watch the market. So 2 things that really did stand out from our conversation and what you put together was, one, the use of the one-pagers. When I asked you a couple follow-up questions, I was thinking about sometimes when I'm talking to my wife and I'll show her something, I have a bad habit of just continually talking while I'm hey, take a look at this, and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. But what I'm not doing is I'm not saying and I'm not setting the stage first and then setting the item and then showing the points that I wanted to look at. I'm just continually running my mouth. But that was great.
Yeah, and that's so important. So think about, so what we're really talking about and what we based our study on were annuities, right? We want to help financial professionals put them in the best position to offer, and hopefully people want annuities because they're very important. They're very timely for the environment and for the time period we're in, right? For a portion. We'll
that's
get
from
to
the
that
webinar.
We'll
that's from our
that
conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but annuities are very complicated, right? When you get into the nuts and bolts and the details of them, which I don't think we even need to go there, but that's how we're wired, or that's how we're engineered in this industry. So one-pagers, if they're done well, can really paint a nice visual and really cater to the right side of the brain. And I don't know if you know this, left brain versus right brain science. Left side of the brain is the side of the brain that does process more complicated information like math and formulas and big words and concepts. And the right side of the brain is the side of the brain that is more visual and, processes big picture. And as we age, we become much more right brain dominated.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Interesting.
And so it actually starts happening when we're 40. We base more of our decisions from the right side of the brain. So visuals and big pictures and those type of scenarios. So think about that. These pages can be very right brain oriented. They're complicated, but the picture, like charts and graphs, if you explain them properly, that's very big picture. And that can be an emotional part of the story for the one pager if you tell it right.
Yep.
So think about this. If you just put that in front of them, they're never going to figure it out on their own. They're not. Unless they have a huge knowledge base on annuities, they're just not. But if you explain to them, look, I'm gonna share a strategy with you for a portion of your overall portfolio that will, in the end, it will solve for income for you for the rest of your life. This is how the strategy works. Every year, we're gonna lock in a certain, whatever it is, keeping it simple, and then you put that piece in front of them with that chart and say, okay, so here's the visual of that. Like I said, see how this steps up every year? What's happening every year for 10 years? It's stepping up your potential income. Then when we hit that 10 years, this is your number right here. This is what you're going to have to add to your income plan in retirement. And then all of a sudden they heard the concept, hopefully use the right words, it resonated, and then you cement that sticky memory with this visual.
Yeah, the one pager and the use of that and the I think a lot of advisors give clients material, but they don't tell them, and you talked about this regarding videos. The use of video is like people don't want to just be handed something or sent something like, hey, look at this. Well, why am I looking at it?
Yeah.
And what you said, and while you were talking, I was thinking about this, like, I don't want to give somebody something for them to come to their own conclusion. What I want them to do is I want to tell them why they're looking at it so that they end up at the same conclusion. But that, like the use of the one-pagers, the way you walked through in there was great. The use of the video, the one thing that actually surprised me, the use of calculators.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think that people that would resonate as much in the way that will you tell a little bit about that, and especially when you put an amount in?
Yes. So I don't think I had a bias either way. I just wanted to test it because no one's ever tested like client resource tools. And when I say client resource tools, I'm talking about one pagers that we were just talking about. I'm talking about videos that we can use. I'm talking about software like, I don't know, Money Guide Pro or your own maybe proprietary money planning software tools, calculators like Social Security calculators, income calculators. I just wanted to see where people thought about them, and in every situation, people liked all the tools. They did, but what we found is where should you use them in the conversation to have the most impact. So the calculators, they seem daunting, right? So they're daunting if you're, as an advisor, just sitting back and doing the calculations on your own, or not even doing the calculations in front of the client and then just giving them the output piece. It's like, what is this? Yep. But what we found, this is awesome, because everyone, I believe, has the tools in their office, or if they're even doing it via Zoom, even better, because you can share your screen. But what they love is that if, let's say, you use certain calculators for your planning for your clients. Let's just say you're going to use Global Atlantic's income calculator, because that's what we tested.
Shameless plug, but I love it.
Right.
Yes,
But
awesome.
just say.
It's good software.
Yeah.
It's really good software.
It's good. And so let's just say, because that's what we tested, the client comes in, you're going to do some income planning for them for retirement. You say, okay, I'm going to, let's do some live inputs here, because I want you to see how this populates. I want you to get the visual, remember, right brain. I want you to see how this really populates. And so you're like, okay, here you are, here's your age, here's how much money we're going to potentially use for this portion of your overall portfolio. And then you enter whatever it is it takes to get all the entries filled. and then you hit enter, and then, they have a screen they can look at, and everything starts populating and lighting up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it just stops and ends. And it probably ends with an income amount and all these other entries in a nice little format. And so, what we saw is the client would go up and be like, oh, this is cool. And then they'd go up and they'd move their line across. Okay, 10 years down here, it looks like you put in this. And oh, wow. Okay, so this will be this is what we'll get every year. Yeah, that's it. Wow. And then in every scenario, they go, let's put in more. What happens if we put in more? So like that software and I call it the live demo. It's got to be live entry points because they love the whole process. They love the live. It's all about me. Everything populates. They move over. This is great.
So I think about, as you're saying that, I had this client. This was one of the biggest, I don't know what moment it was, deflating probably.
Oh.
I had a client that they would come in and they were trying to figure out when they could retire, and they wanted to retire. So they literally were waiting for the day that was like, yep, you can go. So, and this goes back a little bit to income planning, what we talked about in the other room. And they would come in, and we would go through this planning software that we had. But the planning software that we had wasn't necessarily focused. It wasn't very specific on the income side.
Okay.
So the income is just like, well, here's your portfolio. We'll get you whatever the number was, but not how, not where, not what are we taking from? And so I worked with them for years, Jeannie, literally. Yeah. I would have these ridiculously long conversations, and we were getting close, and I was sweating over this. I was like, and finally I was like, one day I was like, I'm just going to call them Jim and Kathy. Like, Jim and Kathy, I think if we do this, then we could, this would work.
Yes.
And she looked over and she said, should we tell them about that $400,000 CD we have over at blah, blah, blah? I had been working with them for years. I had this down. I worked down to the gnat's ass on this thing. Like I was like, I had like the green eye shade on, right?
I think we can do this. I hope we can.
And when she said that, like, I was like, I'm sorry, the what?
Where were you?
That we could have. Now I could have been so much better as an advisor, but with the planning and had I done it the correct way and more of a focus, and what you said, again, massive teaser here to the audience, but what you were talking about, the person that provides the income plan is the one who's going to get the assets when they retire. If I would have focused over here, I would have got it. But when they said like, oh, should we tell them about that $400,000 CD? I think I might have cried. I don't know. It was awful.
No, but that kind of goes back to the point, right? Like when you lead a conversation, let's just say you have clients. It's another kind of takeaway I would take from this podcast is when you are sitting in front of your computer, segment out all your clients that, again, are 5 years away from retirement.
Oh, I like where you're going already. 5
years away from your retirement. Get that list of clients, and then the next meeting that you have, or schedule a meeting, say this, be like, you are 5 years away from retirement.
Yeah.
My job for you is that I will be working on creating and designing an income plan for you in retirement. So the day that your paycheck stops, you step into retirement, your income will not skip a beat. That, when you do it that way, that's like there's some urgency, but it's also some comfort because there's some structure that they're familiar with and they want on the other side when they do stop, that paycheck stops. And so that what that does is then it says, so I need to see everything at this point. Like this is really critical in the planning process. I need to see your Social Security statement. I need to see your pension statements if you're lucky enough to have those. I need to see your 401k statements. I need to see every pool of money that you currently have that you intend to use for income, and we're going to use that to build this plan for you. So it's going to be a transition period, but we're going to try to make this as easy as possible for you.
I think so. I am a very young 53, as I would like to think.
You are.
But the kicker is, as you said that, I'm starting to think a little bit about that. I know I don't plan to stop working like 5 forever, right?
Right.
But I don't know. Like I know where I'm doing the best I can, right?
Yes.
And
but
the thought of where is my income going to come? Maybe because I'm in the industry, I don't know, but
Well,
I'm 15.
you're used to it.
Yeah, and so. But I'm actually thinking that when you said that,
Yes.
that resonated. Like, well, wait, I would if somebody had that conversation with me, if my guy had that conversation with me, that might be something like, oh, at least he's thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
You're just dropping knowledge bombs all over the place.
We're trying, right? Anything we can share.
All right, well, let's do this. So I have hogged up so much of your time today. Let's give some practical advice. And actually, I want to go back. So one of the biggest things right off the bat that doesn't cost anybody anything, and you don't need anything other than a yellow pad.
Yes.
Is I'm going to tell you. I'm before I ask you yours.
Okay.
Something you said, which is you should, if you're listening to this, you should take a piece of paper, put a T on there, partner A, partner B of your top 10 households, and you should pull some questions and see if you can answer them for both sides.
Yep.
Because if you can't for one side or the other, something happens to the side that you know, that client's going to be gone unless you get that filled in. Not a guarantee, but you need to know that other person. That's
the right step in the right direction.
that is big. So let's talk steps in the right direction then. So there's one.
Yes.
Jeannie, what do you got for us?
So I kind of already alluded to it, right? Was this concept that we created a program around the fragile decade. So it goes back to kind of this income plan, right? So for all of you out there that don't know what the fragile decade is, it's simply defined as the 5 years before retirement.
Yep.
And it's the 5 years after retirement. And that word fragile, the reason that it's tagged onto that time period is because that word kept popping up in all the research. People said, now that I'm so close to retirement, I've been dreaming of this, thinking of this, and now that it's so close, I can see it, I can touch it. I've never felt more fragile financially. Like, did I do all the right things? Am I sure this is going to work? And I've never felt more fragile emotionally. Like, what is this thing going to look like on the other side? I've had the same pattern and structure like for the last 40 years. What's going to happen? So what I would do, and again, those are the people 5 years away from retirement that are your at-risk clients, meaning that those assets can leave your practice.
Yeah.
Because when people are saving for retirement, I don't know if I mentioned this on this podcast already, but you can't hear it enough, they're working with on average 2 to 3 financial professionals. They move closer to retirement. The trend that we see is 1. You want to start the income plan conversation with clients that are 5 years away from retirement, and you put yourself in the best position, not only to retain those assets, but get the rest of their assets.
So, I've been paying attention to everything you said and what you said in the other room. And now you just said fragile, which totally links back to, it totally makes sense now when you were talking, I think in the first session that we did.
Yeah.
Where the words that really resonate with that came up a lot. Number one was secure, which I didn't, when you said it, I'm like, well, that's kind of, I'm like,
given or.
Well, I was kind of like, yeah, I guess so. I guess, maybe I would think, but when you say, now that you explain, now that you tied that together, now it's like, oh, it does. I see.
That's why they need feel that security, because that mind frame that they're, and the majority of the people that we researched or surveyed. Yeah.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. So that's my takeaway is I would also go back and I would segment all your clients that are 5 to 7 years away from retirement. See how many of their assets that you have. See the ones that you want to keep. Maybe you don't want to keep everyone.
That's true too.
The ones that you want to keep, and I would put an effort. I would put a very strategic plan in place to start having that conversation. So not only do you retain those assets, but hopefully you can get the ones that aren't held with you.
That is fantastic. So as a slight teaser, I was poking around the website and I saw some of the other content that you have out there. There was a really cool one. Why did she choose you?
Yeah. Why she chooses you, which is all about kind of what we alluded to here at the couples. Yep.
Lots of others. What are you excited about? You got anything big on the horizon you're excited about? Let's tease up for the future.
Do I ever? Oh my gosh. We've been researching with a big trend in our industry, right? So we've got the baby boomers that are aging. So you've got this whole generational wealth transfer, which is just like a monster, right? So of the 89 trillion that's coming down from the baby boomers, the next gen that's going to get about 30, so the 89 trillion, the next generation that's expected to get 30 trillion of that, the next up is Gen X. And no one seems to be talking about Gen X. They
No,
are
they
the
do not.
classic forgotten child. Like they're right in everyone skips to millennials. We're even talking about Gen Z, the Gen Z stare. Like all these little things that are catching our attention about millennials and Gen Z. And Gen X, right now, with that wealth transfer to them and their own wealth accumulation, the age that they are in, they are set up to be the wealthiest demographic in history over the next 2 decades.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Not going to happen. It's already happening. Gen X is a different animal. They are a different consumer. They are a different investor. And so what we are doing, we're putting together a program to help the financial professional community know who Gen X is and how do you go after them.
Is that hard? Because I know that I'm in Gen X, right? But I don't remember the age ranges on it. Is that going to be a challenge because a lot of the advisors themselves are probably in Gen X?
They are, a mix of Gen X and baby boomers right now are the majority population of financial professionals.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So there's a formula there, and they're different. You're not the way that you got baby boomers. You're not going to get that Gen X the same way. And so we have a lot of studies. We have a lot of information. We're creating. I'll give you the title of it. It's called Ahead of Time: The Quiet Rise of Gen X.
Nice.
Yeah, and we have all sorts of tools. One I shared with you that's AI related. So we're excited.
I can't wait to see that too. Okay, so we're going to land this plane. So Jeannie, thank you so much for being on here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
This has been a treat. I would, if you can make it back down this way, I'd love to have you back on, talk AI, talk that. For everybody, and I will say this. I don't know who Jeannie reports to, but if you're catching this podcast, I'm thinking Ray's because you're just killing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This is fun stuff. I love it.
This is great. So for everybody else, here's what I will say. Thank you again.
Yes.
For everybody else, if you're curious about what Jeannie's been talking about, shoot me a message and I'll get that content out to you. You can see the webinar, you can see more details, the toolkit, because it's good. It's great material. Good material. And then also though, if you have any topic that you'd like me to dive into, because on the podcast, this is all about tried and true things. And in fact, Jeannie, I didn't tell you this, but very rarely do I have home office people on because it's always theory. Except you're not theory, because this is all flipping science. Like you guys did the work and the actual stuff. So this isn't pie in the sky like you talked about in there. This is things that actually are real. So, but if there's an area of our industry, of our business, because this is such an awesome business and industry to be in, if there's something you want me to dive into, let me know, and I'll find an advisor or an expert on that topic that's actually doing it, that actually knows what they're talking about, that maybe is bruise their knees or a little bit, getting bumped up into it and working on it. So that being said, drop that in there. Any criticism, constructive or otherwise, drop it in there. I love that too. And then I'd ask you this favor. If you're not already a subscriber, if you could subscribe, follow the show. That way, whenever a new episode comes out, you're the first to know. So thanks, and we will see you next episode.
All right.
That was
This
awesome.
is fun, right?
That's solid content. That is good stuff.